Welcome to the Knicks Science of Basketball Sideline Chat presented by Pfizer. My name is Darren Heaton with Science of Sport, and today we're learning about different jobs in sports and how STEM education is intertwined into the game that we love so much. Whether you're on the court, working in the front office, STEM is all around us, and by using the underlying excitement of the Knicks in basketball in general, we can bring greater awareness and understanding of how we can improve academically by learning about some of the different jobs that are available within the sports world or the science world. So today we're super excited to have three incredible guests join us and talk a little bit more about how they use STEM in their jobs and how they used it playing the game. So I want to welcome Charles Smith, a retired NBA player, played for 9 seasons, 4 of those with the Knicks. Liz Chang, who's a senior associate with Pfizer, and Spencer Julien, who's a producer for the New York Knicks and MSG Networks. So first, we're going to get started with Charles. So tell us a little bit about your bio, your background, and kind of how you got into basketball.
Well, how I got into basketball is pretty simple. I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut, and always loved to play the game. Spent a lot of time in Bridgeport with friends and family learning how to play the game. But today, as I retired, I got into technology. I developed customizable applications for video ingestion. That was my introduction to technology, and I was pretty ahead of the curve in doing that. I own multiple patents on that. But as we fast forward into STEM and talking to children and educating people through STEM, sports is a great opportunity to have that discussion, because when you talk about STEM, it's in every part of our lives today. It's all throughout sports. There are multiple jobs that kids can garner within sports. There are opportunities for them to learn about technology, sports, and vice versa. So love having these conversations as a former NBA player with kids, because you can just see the excitement in their faces. And when that light bulb goes off in those conversations, it's good to know that they're in tune, they're learning, and they go away from you more knowledgeable than when they came into some of the programs that are being provided to them.
That's incredible, Charles. Thank you so much for being here. When you think about when you were playing, how were you able to use science, technology, engineering, or math to become a better basketball player? Can you think of anything in particular that comes to mind that, may correlate to the on-court performance as well?
Well, first thing that comes to mind when you talk about the science of it is nutrition. Today you're able to understand how to eat, how to train, and provide maximum performance through nutrition and science, dealing with your DNA and what's best for you, the best time to eat, the best foods to eat at the right time, so that you can maximize your performance on the floor. Another opportunity is in analytics. As time has gone on, you're able to look at the engineering and technical aspect of the game, where it's broken down into clips and highlights to study players, to study teams, to study tendencies. You get the math aspect of that, and you always have a great opportunity to enhance your skills, your development, and your play, both from the management side, off the court, and on the court with the team, because the analytics helps you understand where your tendencies are that you need to improve, and it helps you understand as a player some of the things that you need to improve on. So all those things come into play within the sport. And lastly, on the management side, they use analytics to be able to select the right players, understanding how they are as individuals when it comes to their stats. You can put a team together when you're looking for someone who's a really great shooter from the perimeter, someone who's a great rebounder. You can look at all those stats and blend the team through analytics to put the best possible team on the floor. But I can't finish without saying that there's one part of it that it really doesn't measure, and that's a person's heart and desire and how they play and how they lead in the locker room. That's one of the things that they just haven't figured out yet. Through AI, they might figure that out, but those are some of the things that come to mind when you talk about STEM.
Yeah, that's a good point. Technology is changing so quickly in this world, and it's often challenging to keep up. But like when you think about analytics, what I really love and what we've seen work well with some of our programs is these heat maps and spray charts of some of our favorite players and their shooting. Which shots are they making and which shots are they missing. And so like to me, being able to have these additional resources to where it makes it really visually appealing is super helpful to understand how you can get better on the court. So when you say analytics, I really go towards these visual representations of athletes to review, and look at, from either themselves to get better, or even from a defensive standpoint, how are they going to look at that and learn, how can I defend that player a little better? So I think that's another interesting thing to mention as well. And thanks for mentioning and giving that background, Charles. I would love to move over to Liz Chang and talk to you a little bit about your background and tell us a little bit more about how you got to where you are today and what you do with Pfizer.
Sure, Darren. So I certainly don't have a really linear career path. I've zigzagged all over the place. I studied biochemistry, neurobiology in undergrad and intended on going to medical school, but I took a bit of a gap year and I wound up being an educator. So I wrote the STEM curriculum for the North Jersey school districts, and I taught math and science there. And from there, I really missed kind of the hands-on component. So then I went into the laboratory and worked as a chemist for a few years. And then I worked as a technical writer in regulatory. So I worked with a lot of regulatory agencies such as the FDA and different regulatory agencies all around the world to be able to get a lot of product approvals, especially during the pandemic. So that was really rewarding. And then most recently, I joined the Pfizer School of Science, trying to get New York City public students to come into the headquarters and learn about different things such as like immunology, microbiology, different skill sets that you would need in the laboratory and get them excited, learning different practical applications and really seeing the things that are in the textbook come to life and being able to do hands-on experiments.
That's great. Liz, where's the school at?
It's in New York City. It's in Hudson Yards.
Awesome. And so you mentioned one thing I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit more about, and some of the skill sets that are needed in the lab. Thinking from like a student that doesn't know potentially if they want to, work in science, what is that skill set that you're kind of thinking in your mind, like could be the most used to really hone in on now, and then ultimately kind of set them up to potentially work in that field later in life?
Yeah, certainly. So I think science and STEM in general kind of have the reputation of being really boring, really like sterile, and a lot of people just think of really boring textbooks. So a lot of those skill sets, students that come in always get really excited because they see things that they can touch, they can feel it, they can look through different things. So different skill sets could include using micropipettes to pipette really, really small volumes into vials. They could also look in through a microscope and be able to see bacteria, different animal cells, different plant cells. They can learn about filtration and how that's really cool. Thinking back to my college experience, one of my favorite laboratories that I ever did was in organic chemistry. We decaffeinated coffee. We took spearmint oil out of a piece of gum. And that always really stuck out to me because I thought that was such a cool experiment. So being able to make science fun for students is definitely a huge priority for us.
Love that. Making it fun. That's what's key. Whatever we can use to take that real world example and make it more enjoyable, right? Mm-hmm. So we've been able to understand a little bit of the math side with Charles, and obviously the science side with you, Liz. But Spencer, would love to talk some technology a little bit about your background, working with the Knicks, and just give us a little bit of a overview on what you do day to day with the Knicks, and how you got into this job.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, like a lot of kids growing up, I wanted to be a professional athlete, and I loved sports, and I loved the adrenaline of it. And as I got older, I started to realize that being a professional athlete was just not going to happen for me. My abilities only took me so far, but the one thing that I did know was I wanted to get involved in sports, and I didn't know what that meant. Just having a passion and a love for all sports, I just knew that I wanted to make a career out of it. And I went to the University of Maryland, and upon graduation, I was able to get an internship at MSG Networks. And the funny thing is, when you sit at home and you watch the game on TV, I don't think I ever as a kid thought about the producer, the director, the camera guys, the technical director, the audio operators. There's so many technicians that are part of a broadcast, and I always thought about the players and the announcers. That's really, when I'm sitting there watching, that's all I ever thought about. And then as an intern, when I walked onto the TV truck for the first time, it was eye-opening for me. And it probably within a week or so, I realized I want to produce Knicks basketball. That would be a dream job for me, sitting in the chair, getting to cover a team, getting to watch basketball for a living. And I would feel the same adrenaline that I did when I was a kid playing sports. When the game was over, we either had a good broadcast, we didn't have such a good broadcast for whatever reason, but I had that same rush on a big shot, queuing up replays, just telling the story of the game to the fans was really just something that I really fell in love with, and I have a great passion for.
The sports mentality has stuck with you, it seems like, regardless of it, and I kind of resonate well with that too. When you had mentioned that there's a lot of individuals that work and are pulling off this amazing broadcast, like, I think that really resonates a lot well with everyone, that there's a lot of jobs to be able to execute and do what you do. When you think about some of these specific tasks, what are some of the ways that STEM is used in your job?
Well, I think obviously technology. It's funny. I'm looking behind Charles, and I think I see VHS tapes there. But it was,
I'm digitizing.
But it's funny because when I started out, it was, if I needed to give somebody a clip, I'd record it to a VHS tape and give it to somebody. Right. Or VHS went to beta, then it went to high definition, and now everything could be sent on a link. So, everything gets sent to a server, you're on drives, but the technology is it's unbelievable how far we've come. I think, pretty soon you're going to be sitting at home watching a game virtual reality like you're courtside. So there's so many different things on the tech side. And, for me, I'm more of the storyteller. So all the technological aspects of the game, I try to bring into to the broadcast, whether it's, replays or telestrators, the different types of cameras and the lenses on the cameras, editing. You can go into an edit room and tell the story by producing a nice 15-30 second clip that shows you all the highlights. So there's so much, the technology it's unbelievable how far it's come. But I also go back to the math. When we're telling the story of a game, what are the stats? What are the players doing? How are they shooting from three? How are they, shooting in the paint? And as you know, Charles said, the analytics today, it's so for these players, coming off screens, one dribble, two dribbles, catch and shoot. It's unbelievable that how much more advanced they can be by the analytics and show what the higher percentage shots are. So it's truly remarkable how, whether it's math, technology, and as Charles said, the science of, the nutrition, the teams have nutritionists and everybody, the player development, there's 6-7 player development coaches, assistant coaches, a lot more than back in the day. So you have a lot of these advantages to, for you and to help you perform at a better rate.
Yeah, Spencer, technology has changed quite a bit over the years, and there are so many different ways to use it to our advantage. And I'm curious, Charles, this is a good question, I think, from your perspective, as a player of the game, and seeing how you were going through, how you were going to become the best, and really hone in on that like work ethic and things off the court to help you. Fast forward to now, like when you see all the different technology available for some of these players, what sort of sticks out to you as something that a individual student could really hone in on from a technology standpoint to focus on to help improve them on the court in addition to in the classroom?
So I'm going to answer that twofold. Probably take you back a little bit based on what Spencer mentioned, and then give you my insight on that answer, and then talk about the future of it. So when I started playing, as Spencer mentioned, and these are some of the games in the back that I'm still digitizing. So we had VHS, and at that time, the editors, we traveled like a rock band with so much equipment. They would set up racks and VHS decks to tape and record the fast breaks and the tendencies of other players, and then they give tapes out to everyone that we watch them in our rooms, in the hotel rooms. Fast forward that, you get into customizable applications that are tagging and labeling that same content to help a player improve, watching someone he's going against, watching the team's fast breaks, and the coaches were able to utilize that to connect it with a Ethernet cord to a smart TV, and we'd watch it, right? Fast forward again, another segment. Now, as Spencer mentioned, it's a link. All that content is available in a customizable form that's searchable on a link where you can view anything you want. You want somebody's, every time they catch the ball on the right side of the court, you can see what they're going to do, and you can use a hot map to say every time he jab steps, he's going to go all the way to the basket. He does it 80% of the time. So you can break down an opponent's tendencies, and you can look at your own tendencies where you can say, look, you're going to have to improve in this. Coaches and teams are seeing that you do this the majority of the time. You got to get another tool to your toolbox, and you got to go left a little more. You got to learn to go left. So that works. Now, today, all of those technology processes are here today with AI. If AI is not a part of your business going forward, that business is obsolete. That's just a fact. So all these kids that are growing up, that are watching this show, who are learning about AI, who already know about AI, they have sports jobs waiting for them, even at a young age, because if the people who are not in those offices now are not moving toward AI, to be able to take everything that I just said and kind of move it forward and expedite it to be able to think those things instead of and having the technology plan it out for you, where you can just find out what you need, and the technology lays it all out for you. You don't have to, go through clips and highlights. It'll give you your package that you asked for. So those sorts of things would help me today improve my game at a much more rapid pace than yesteryear. Nutrition, you can give blood now through science. They can analyze your DNA, and they can tell you what you should eat before 9, after 12, at 4, the type of rest, because everybody's different. Somebody needs 8 hours of rest. Somebody may only function on 6. So all those things can really make an elite player even more elite and have him stand out or her stand out from the rest of the pack if they participated in it and they utilize the STEM that's given to them.
When we think about this world, I mean, my biggest takeaway from what you had said is that always be learning. You know, there's not really a place anymore to be complacent, whether you're a business owner or a player or a scientist. Like, the ability to always try to be curious, like
Yes.
try to question things, figure out how to do it better. You know, is this key kind of mindset that, you know, I kind of think of when we're discussing this. But you had mentioned nutrition, and curious Liz's perspective on this. Just, you know, what are some different ways, like from the science side of things, you know, and, you know, maybe like specifically with Pfizer, like, you know, what are some ways that kids can learn about how they can improve their nutrition or health, and maybe relate it back to, you know, being a basketball player? Anything that comes to mind from the Pfizer side that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, I think just like Charles and Spencer were saying, students these days, they have so many resources at their fingertips that we didn't have when we were younger. They have the whole internet to be able to search things. They have really great educators in their schools that they can reach out to. And the whole world is at their fingertips. The world is their oyster, that they can be able to look up whatever they want to. I think a really good resource is just going on Google or even going on YouTube. You can learn so many different things now for free, just online. And I think that's a really great resource for students to have.
Yep. Excellent. So, you know, whether it be on the court, off the court, working on our nutrition, you know, or watching a game. So, you know, Spencer, when you think about the world of technology from the viewing perspective, and how do you keep it entertaining? You know, it's challenging enough to get people to go to the game, you know, at times to capture their attention for 2 to 3 hours. When you're watching the game, there's also this added layer of technology that you have to create to make it a little bit more entertaining from a viewer standpoint. Anything that like comes to mind from that perspective of how you can do it?
Yeah, I think your camera locations, you know, bringing the fans closer to the game. You know, I think a lot of it also comes down to access. If you can bring a camera into the locker room, if you can put a mic on a player and you hear what these players are saying during the game, it brings you closer to them. It makes you feel that you're part of the game. And I think, you know, over the years, cameras have been put on the backboard. So you have the RoboCams. You have the cameras from the highest part of the arena looking down on the court. So the different camera locations can really enhance the broadcast. It can enhance the, you know, the viewing aspect of it. And again, sometimes you have the referees will, you know, you see it not so much in the NBA, but the referees will have a headband with the camera on it running up and down the floor. And all of these technological advancements, it's another element that gets the viewer to tune in, because they want to see what is the broadcast going to show next. So I think that's part of the next phase of it. And I mentioned earlier the virtual reality, putting on a headset, and all of a sudden you're sitting courtside watching the game. So I think those are the things that, you know, are going to come in time. But it's exciting. You know, it's we've come a long way, and definitely in my, you know, 28 years, you know, covering Knicks basketball, I'm blown away where we are now and where we were, you know, years ago.
28 years. That's very impressive. So kudos to you. And you also had a chance to win an award. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, recently I got an Emmy for Best Live Sports Producer in the New York area. So, you know, it's it's something that makes me feel good that I was acknowledged for my work. But as Charles knows, it's all about being part of a team. I'm not getting that award if I'm not surrounded by great people that do great work. And that award is just a testament to all the wonderful people at MSG Networks on the Knicks broadcast, because we all play our part, and to be acknowledged for it, it's great. But I've always said it's a team award, and but thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, absolutely, and well said. There's not one thing that we can do individually. In most cases, like even when you think about like a golfer, they still have a team. Even though that they're competing by themselves, they still have a great team that executes on that. So just wanted to throw out that analogy. But for a student that is like saying in his head, wow, I really want to produce a show, like that would be really cool to do in the future. What's something that they can do now to learn more about producing their own TV show?
The best way to answer that is, we have these smartphones, these iPhones right now, that you can literally record anything and you can tell a story. So I think the biggest thing as a producer is storytelling. And I'll give you a quick example. My 11-year-old son I have a 9-year-old daughter, and he was talking a little bit of trash to her, saying he could beat her in a 2-mile race. So we went to the high school track, and I broke out the iPhone and I asked him a question about why he thinks he can win, and I asked her a question, and then I kind of shot them going around a few times, and she ended up not only beating him, destroyed him. And I cut a 2.5-minute feature about it. And those are things that are on the anybody can do it, because I tell people all the time that you want to get involved in this industry. When you're in high school, you can get involved in broadcasting, even if it's just calling the basketball, football, soccer games, whatever it is. You can call those games, but you can also do it. You could also, on your phone, you can shoot those games, cut highlights, and then post it to the school website. There's so many things that they can do, because to get involved in sports and in production, as I mentioned, earlier, you could be a camera operator. You can be the technical director that is executing what the producer and director are saying in the truck. You can be a tape operator where you're queuing up the replays. So there's so many different aspects of it, but you can start by thinking outside the box a little bit and taking your phone and just recording different things and just kind of looking at games and looking at activities a little bit different. And it doesn't have to be sports. It could be anything. It's, telling a short form feature of 2 or 3 minutes is a couple of interviews, shooting a couple of shots, establishing shots. And it's all at their fingertips these days. And it's just, you'll find that love, whether it's shooting the camera, being in front of the camera, or being behind the camera. And then you'll start to understand what it is that you want to do. And then you go after it. I mean, editing is another part of it. As a producer, I sit in the edit room and I have the plan, I have it mapped out, but the editor executes it, puts all the funky little effects on it and makes it look really good. And it's just another part of production, and there's so many jobs that you can get involved in, and it's just finding the one that really just sparks the interest.
Experiment with it is what I'm getting out of it. You got to try it, test it out and see if there's that passion for it, but you're not going to know until you try it. And so exactly. I also feel like your daughter is going to be holding on to that video for a very long time.
That's what I was thinking.
All right. Well, thanks, Spencer. I appreciate that, and appreciate you being here and talking with us for a bit. Liz, kind of same final question. Any sort of advice you would give to someone that is looking to get into science or potentially work at Pfizer?
Yeah, definitely. So just going back to what we said earlier, I think a lot of people, when they think of science, they think of a really sterile environment. They think of a lab coat. One of the activities we usually do with the students is we tell them to picture a scientist, and they'll explain that. They'll say that it's someone who wears a lab coat, who has like a stethoscope. And we explain that there's so much more in the world of science than just being a scientist. You can be out in the field. It could be someone like Charles or Spencer working in entertainment, being an athlete. Science is literally the foundation of everything. And the one thing that I always really encourage people to do if they're interested in science is to just take the leap of faith and try everything out. Just like Darren, you said, you never know what you like until you try it. So I would recommend that you just go out, have fun. Science is fun. Science is messy. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because most scientific discoveries were made because of mistakes, and they've been happy little mistakes that have made such a difference in the world of medicine and technology. So I would just encourage students to go have fun and take that leap of faith.
Yeah, growth mindset is a big element to, our programs, and specifically the Knicks Science of Basketball program, and, helping instill them with, it's okay to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe you're not good at shooting free throws. Not good at shooting free throws yet. We got to put ourselves out there and try, and being okay to fail. And so, I love that you kind of mentioned that we're all scientists at heart. And the more we can kind of keep that mindset, the better off we'll be across the board. So, Charles, last question for you, very similarly, any sort of advice you may have for somebody that was, really wanting to be a elite basketball player or enter into some sort of STEM job field?
It will probably be more encouragement than advice, because I have young sons and I learn from them daily. A lot of the teenagers and youth out there are arrogant technologists. They don't care about making mistakes. They rather go through something without a roadmap and run into mistakes, because that's just how they think. We're moving toward a limitless world of problem solving with AI. These kids out here are really shaping and forming our future, and I'd encourage them to continue to think outside of traditional patterns and continue to push the envelope on what they don't understand and what they don't know, because that's where the answer lies. And it's just a beautiful time. And like I said, I learned from my sons, and they educate me every day, and I'm a willing participant, and I want to learn. So I encourage all of them to just continue to do what you're doing. The future is yours. There's a lot of opportunities out there for you, and I need a job. Just don't forget about me.
Yes, that is right. An excellent way for us to end this episode. So I want to thank you all for joining. Liz, Spencer, Charles, really appreciate your guys' perspective, and such an honor to be able to talk with you about, what you do on a day-to-day basis. And, for those that are looking for more information on the Knicks Science of Basketball program presented by Pfizer, you can check out the Knicks website. You're going to see it on the ticker below. And any of those teachers looking to participate in the program in the future, feel free to visit that website, and please, let us know if you have any future questions for potential episodes that we can do in the future. But that's it for now. Thank you all for joining on this episode of the Knicks Science of Basketball Sideline Chat.